Antiquity Unveiled, the most marvelous revelations of the 19th century concerning the origin of Christianity by Jonathan M. Roberts. Pope Gregory VII, by whose order the library of Palatine Apollo was destroyed in the 11th century. And there's reason in the Bible why they would kill a medium, and you think a pope would definitely not be on the side of the medium. Good day. I come here by force. As the preceding speaker, the spirit Plotinus told you, and what is worse, I am forced to tell you exactly what I did when here in the mortal form. When living on earth, I was known as Pope Gregory, and what I am here for today is to own the destruction of the library of the Palatine Apollo, which contained the whole of the writings of the school of Alexandria from the days of Potamon to the days of one Maximus. And what was my excuse for its destruction? Religious bigotry. I made the excuse for it, that I did not want the clergy to have their minds diverted from their Holy Week by studying heathen literature. But the real cause of my action in that matter was that there were recorded in that library all the facts that would prove that no such person as Jesus of Nazareth ever existed, and therefore, feeling the weakness and insecurity of my position, I did all I could to strengthen it by letting as few as possible know what the real contents of that library were. I am here also to state that there is a power, a band of spirits, now occupying a position that enables them, when they want a man to return here and atone for the wrong he has done during his mortal life, to force him to come back and communicate the truth. By the force of truth itself, he is compelled to come back and acknowledge his wrongs. It is the same with spirits as mortals. They love power and hate opposition as much as they did here. That is all I have to say. And, well, studying the various different religious literature, like, for example, if you believe in Al-Quran and the inspired teachings of Muhammad, that doesn't mean you can't look at the literature that's even directly deviant and say such and such. But taking a medium or a soothsayer in terms of, their spiritual authority, let's that sort of thing. You take authority over their process, that's considered a serious thing. But to say, hey, here's the reasons why I don't ascribe to your claims, and there's more than I started with, obviously. Just like the Catholic Church didn't want people to see the changes in the Bible, so the fewer people that even access the Bible is perfectly reasonable. And it threatened their authority for everybody else to speak it in their own language, so that was prevented. Now, if it was original inspiration or revelation, then they couldn't edit it at all. Translating it would be something that would be essentially done. Like, Muhammad did that too. He said, learn Hebrew, learn Greek, learn Latin, learn whatever language you need to do to convey what this means to the people. And there's always a problem with inherited positions of spiritual authority. Even if it's not by blood. Consult Chambers' Encyclopedia for a sketch of Pope Gregory. When I was told by the Spirit, through the lips of the medium, that he had destroyed the library of the Palatine Apollo, which contained the whole of the writings of the Alexandrian or Neoplatonic school, from the days of Potamon to the days of one Maximus, or in other words, the early part of the 1st to the middle of the 4th century, I wonder whether it could be true, for it seemed to me that no man possessed the learning which such a library was said to contain, could have been so lost every sense of moral principle as to be guilty of such a cruel, heartless destruction of invaluable literature. When I came to seek for light upon this point, I was surprised to find that there was no historical reference to the fate of the Palatine Apollo Library, and indeed no historical reference in many sources of works to such a library subsequent to the reign of Julian the Apostate, so called by Christians in the 4th century. I found reference to the fact that the Emperor Augustus had erected a temple to Apollo on the Palatine Hill in Rome and founded a library in connection with it. The temple was burnt in the reign of the Emperor Julian, and the same night that the temple of Apollo at Daphne near Antioch was burned. It was further stated that it was with the greatest difficulty that the Sibylline books were saved. Whether the library shared the fate of the temple was not stated. I infer, however, that it was not burnt that time, but existed until it was destroyed by the order of Pope Gregory. And a lot has been blamed on the Muslim peoples that was done by the Christians, or the so-called, or the groups that we call Hindus before them. And a lot has been done by groups of various sorts that really wasn't the actions of their faith. But when a pope, following the example of Acts 19:19 and inspired by some other teachings, does something, well, making the argument that it's not Christian, what he did is, it gets absurd. Same with any other biblically supported argument as being not Christian. It seems to be a disputed question among writers as to whether Gregory I or Gregory VII ordered the destruction of the library Palatine Apollo. Libraries burn down. Sometimes it's an accident too. Let's not ignore that possibility. It is well known, however, that this library was wholly or partially destroyed several times. It is possible, in fact, that both of these popes caused its destruction in the time of their various reigns, and may be the solution of the much discussed question which arises from the fact that John of Salisbury is the only authority for the statement of the Palatine Apollo Library, that it was destroyed by the order of Gregory, and cites his proclamation to that effect in his work, the Polycraticus. Who was John of Salisbury? A historian who was the private secretary of the Archbishop of Canterbury, and through him ambassador to the Papal See, which very fact gave him opportunities to obtain knowledge, the nature of which is not to be carelessly estimated in considering his works, which even today are regarded invaluable. Men like Gregory I and Gregory VII, whose lives were given to perpetuating the power of their church, would certainly not stop at the burning of the library to accomplish their object. Whether Gregory I or Gregory VII caused the destruction of the valuable library in question, the facts which come down to us show that it was destroyed in the interest of the so-called Christian church, and nonfiction, mythology, which is representative. It's essential that we preserve media, different opinions, even wrong opinions. How are we to respond to these? How are we to, and what people own, people's own their own writings, their own expressions. There's got to be a certain degree of freedom to all of that. And that is being stifled. I do not know if this channel is going to disappear because of it being flagged for hate speech, for telling people to get along, to say that there's things I see as problems with my country, my specific locality, the world, although my channel is not about that. It's not about personalities or companies or countries. But if I say something in criticism of such a thing, that will be considered criticism of such a thing, or such a group within such a, or an aspect of a person. My love of human beings, if I didn't love them, I'd be like, oh, fail in this following regard. Here's your mental, your intellectual, your moral failures, your spiritual failures. Go ahead. Go on with them. But no. It's all about loving humanity. And that is why I must condemn some things. I must be adversarial to some things.